Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. First, let's talk about the financial side of this Manny Pacquiao Jessie Vargas fight. This is one of the more important fights in recent memory. Top Rank apparently had a hard time closing the deal with HBO. And so Top Rank decided to put on the fight by themselves. Right? Now pay close attention to the pay-per-view buys. Understand, technology has changed the game. Right? One of the stories in the United States, we have a presidential election in 2 days, is the emergence of what we're calling alternative media. Right? I'm guessing next election cycle this will just be called media. People like Alex Jones, like the Young Turks, like Greg Hunter, have now been able to get audiences of tens of thousands of people. They've upped their game. They're doing their own polls. They're interpreting the polls. They're scrutinizing what's been issued from mainstream media, right? And they're giving things a completely different spin. But let me just say, if Top Rank gets big numbers with Manny Pacquiao, a fighter who, the regular pay channels balked at paying big money to for this fight, if the pay-per-view is able to exceed 600,000 buys, then you're talking about a completely new game in boxing. There would be no reason why Top Rank or any other promoter making notes of what Top Rank is doing would have to be beholden to the pay channels, because quite frankly, the pay channels are only relevant if they're adding value to the mix. And if you could get big numbers on direct promotions like this Top Rank promotion, then there's no reason to be paying the pay channel to facilitate the transaction, right? So pay close attention to the economics. It's big, folks, because understand, Showtime and HBO have their favored list of fighters, right? If you can make it big without being on the favored list, then that'll be a new day for boxing. That might mean more money for everyone except Showtime and HBO. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about the state of the welterweight division. This Manny Pacquiao Jessie Vargas fight was at welterweight. Now you have a champion, Kell Brook, who is willing to fight Amir Khan at 147 pounds. Why is he willing to do so now? Number one, Khan's left the division, right? Khan, recently fought Canelo outside of the division. Two, there's a guy named Errol Spence out there who is Kell Brook's mandatory. Errol Spence is unbeaten and he's dangerous. So what you have here is a champ looking at a dangerous young lion, and suddenly he's talking up an old-time nemesis who he hasn't fought for years, right? The two guys have been dodging each other for years. Now my point to you is, if I were you, I would question Kell Brook, just across the board, just in general. Because he just fought at middleweight. He showed up at the 30 days before the fight weigh-in well over 170 pounds, right? I'm just telling you that it's going to be, in my opinion, impossible for Kell Brook to lose weight, to get down to 147, to compete against the likes of Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao, right? I know Kell Brook plans on going down to 147. Easier said than done. Good luck with that. I'm guessing he's going to be as flat as a pancake when he arrives back at 147. I question whether he fights again, at least at a world-class level at 147. If I'm Errol Spence, I don't allow myself to be paid off to step aside. I insist on that fight because the Kell Brook he'd fight at 147 today won't remotely resemble Kell Brook in his prime. Now let's talk about Manny Pacquiao. Think about it. Here's a guy who spends his time as a member of the Filipino Senate, and he's this close to becoming a unified champion at 147 pounds. Why do I say that? Because two of the other champions, Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, both unbeaten, are about to fight. And let's just say neither guy has the hand speed or the foot speed, just like Jessie Vargas lacked both yesterday. Neither guy has the hand speed or the foot speed to keep up with Manny Pacquiao. Understand, I'm not saying this Pacquiao is prime Pacquiao. He's not. The guy who took out Oscar De La Hoya would take out the current version of Manny Pacquiao. But Manny Pacquiao's legs are astonishing. Right? His biggest advantage is below the waist. Right? He was so much faster than Jessie Vargas. Not just in hand speed, but foot speed. More specifically, that I personally believe, as I said before the fight took place in the pre-fight video, that the only guy who really would give him major trouble at 147 would be Shawn Porter. Right? You have to be able to move around the ring with Manny Pacquiao. Now, I saw Keith Thurman fight Shawn Porter. I thought Thurman lost that fight. Now, Thurman's heroic. Thurman was awarded the victory, right? Close scoring, close fight. Okay, fine. Understand, Manny Pacquiao would present the same problems that Shawn Porter presented for Keith Thurman. In fact, Thurman would have to deal with not just suddenness, but greater speed from a different position. Pacquiao's a southpaw. Now, if Thurman barely survived against Shawn Porter, I get the feeling Thurman loses his title if he beats Danny Garcia to Manny Pacquiao, because Thurman, I don't believe, is prepared to fight at that speed against a guy who's a southpaw who hits harder than Shawn Porter, has a little bit more ring coverage than Shawn Porter. In other words, can hurt you from farther away than Shawn Porter. Porter has pretty good ring coverage, right? But Pacquiao is special. Let's talk about Danny Garcia. As I've said here a million times, Danny Garcia is a mid-range hooker. Mid-range hookers are literally made to order for guys who could move around, stay outside of mid-range, and that's Manny Pacquiao, right? Jessie Vargas, who was taller, had a reach, had a problem finding Pacquiao in the ring. Pacquiao's not going to stay at mid-range, right? Pacquiao would split the uprights. Think of a football field goal post, right? Danny Garcia would be trying to throw punches like this. Manny Pacquiao would take away one of his hands, and then he'd be drilling Danny Garcia because he'd figure out the pattern of Danny Garcia's offense, right? When Garcia looks bad, he looks very bad. Go back and look at the Ashley Theophane film from years ago. Go back and look at the Kendall Holt film from years ago. Go back and look at the second half of Danny Garcia against Lamont Peterson. Now look, with all due respect to Danny's entourage, right? I know Danny's father is talking up a storm about how Danny beats Keith Thurman and stuff like that. Here, on this website, we don't care about any of that stuff, apart from the fact that it sells tickets, right? I want to see the sport do well financially. But understand, the talk doesn't substitute for the style gap, for the hand speed gap, for the foot speed gap. Right? Danny Garcia, simply put, would have a hard time finding Manny Pacquiao in the ring. Manny Pacquiao would have an easy time splitting the uprights on Danny Garcia, who's not defensively blessed. I know many of you are going to say, whoa, wait a moment, Dwyer. Zab Judah's a southpaw. Zab Judah has great hand speed, doesn't he? Didn't Danny beat Zab Judah? Right? Understand, Zab Judah doesn't come close. Zab Judah is really stationary. Zab Judah doesn't come close to having Manny Pacquiao's foot speed. You're talking about Danny fighting Zab Judah when Zab Judah's on ice skates with the ability to hit him harder from further away, right? I think Manny Pacquiao has aged well. I think Manny Pacquiao beats the winner of Garcia Thurman. Understand, Pacquiao already has a share of the welterweight crown. Pacquiao could well have 3 of the welterweight titles by this time next year. Let's talk about another guy who showed up yesterday, Terrence Crawford. Now, I have a video up here online about a hypothetical Manny Pacquiao-Terrence Crawford fight. I stand behind that video. Right? I believe Crawford's a much better technician. I believe Manny's technical defects hurt me yesterday. I expected Pacquiao to win this fight by KO. Right? Plus 200 something odds. Right? I hedged the play with the opponent, Jessie Vargas, simply to win at plus 400. I lost both sides of the bet. Let's talk technique just for a moment. Right? Manny Pacquiao comes out physically. He's too fast for Jessie Vargas. Right? I know Vargas prepared at length for this fight. Who are you going to find to mimic Manny Pacquiao in training? Who's as fast as Manny Pacquiao? Right? Are you going to go out there and get Gary Russell? Even Gary Russell, who is quick with his hands, isn't as quick with his feet as Manny Pacquiao is. Right? Understand, one of the problems with facing Pacquiao is you can't duplicate Pacquiao. Right? In a training session. Let's say I go and I get Amir Khan. Well, the problem is Amir Khan doesn't move his head. He has the hand speed. He's a righty. Amir Khan doesn't jump around the ring the way Manny Pacquiao does. So Jessie Vargas, in my opinion, for the early part of the fight, was completely overwhelmed. Right? I know the guys on the telecast were deferential to the fighters. Okay, fair enough. By the way, let me just add this aside. One of the problems with having a promoter, like Top Rank, promoting its own events, is you really need to have some independence between the promoter and the broadcasters, right? We don't want a situation where if the broadcasters badmouth the promoter's fighter, the promoter comes in, right? The promoter who's writing the checks, the promoter comes in and says, hey, I'm going to kick you off the telecast, right? The first round was a feeling out round. But after that, Manny's in complete control. Much too fast for Jessie Vargas. Jessie Vargas looks like a deer caught in headlights. Then Jessie Vargas hits the canvas. Now let me say this, and I don't say it lightly. The big-time technicians, right? Think Mayweather, who was at the fight. Think Juan Manuel Marquez, right? The fight would be over. Jessie Vargas hits the canvas. I know on the telecast they made it look like, oh, it's a slip. And, you know, it was just a punch where they caught Jessie off balance. That's not what I saw on my big screen. On my big screen, Jessie Vargas gets hit. Goes down. Right? Let me repeat that. Hit. Goes down. Jessie gets up. He looks to me to be dazed and confused. Not awkwardly caught by a punch in a position where he couldn't recover and went to the cat. No, he looked dazed and confused against a guy who was too fast for him, who he couldn't time. So, the difference between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, the reason why Pacquiao is an excellent fighter, but there's an ongoing conversation with the boxing hardcore on whether he's a great fighter. right? A little bit different, right? We have a lot of fighters in boxing history who we love. But then you privately ask yourself, right? Gee, how would this guy do against the very best? Right? I think there's a dialogue going on because of the last third of his career about Roy Jones Jr. Right? Let me point out, Roy was a great fighter. Right? In his prime. But people now are saying, hey, look at Roy. How good is that chin? Enzo Maccarinelli knocked him out. Glenn Johnson knocked him out. Antonio Tarver knocked him out. Danny Green knocked him out. When Roy goes down, Roy looks terrible, doesn't he? Right? Technique-wise, wow. You know, was he relying on reflexes or technique as a young man? How would he do against the better technical fighters? Well, with Manny Pacquiao, he knocks down Jessie Vargas. Knocks him down. Vargas gets up. Keep in mind, at this point, Vargas has no clue on the speed. He's absolutely bewildered. Now, what I want people to do, and I know there's going to be a group of you who are going to say Mayweather wasn't a knockout fighter. But when Floyd Mayweather came out and he dominated early, realized that you couldn't keep up with him on speed. That he could think, execute, get there first, and you weren't ready for it. Floyd would then treat you like he treated Hall of Famer Arturo Gatti. I want people to revisit that fight. Same type of speed difference. Right? Floyd starts out, Floyd realizes, hey, I'm faster than this guy. I'm landing on this guy. Folks, it's game over. Manny Pacquiao is so reliant, as Eric Morales figured out the first time they fought. Go back and revisit that fight. Pacquiao is so reliant from distance, not up close, but from distance, on a straight left hand, right? That as long as he's outside, you can focus on that straight left hand and know that he doesn't have the right hook from distance to finish you. Right? Now contrast that with Mayweather, where Mayweather always had a devastating lead left hook. Always had. Devastating lead left hook. Right? So if he hurt you and you're looking at Mayweather, you didn't know. In fact, Vladimir Klitschko, same thing. Let's say Klitschko hurts you with a right hand. Right? Pacquiao's a southpaw, so with Pacquiao it's his left. That's his dominant hand. Right? Mayweather, Klitschko, it's a right. In fact, let's throw another fighter in. Canelo. Another guy who can close. If Canelo, Vladimir Klitschko, or Floyd Mayweather hurt you with a right hand, right? And understand, Mayweather against a southpaw, Robert Guerrero, is throwing devastating right hands right down Main Street. Understand that you can't, when you get off the canvas like Jessie Vargas did yesterday, a little bit dazed, a little bit confused, a bit overwhelmed by the hand speed, you can't, from distance, then focus on that right hand and protect yourself from the right hand and be safe. There's no safe area because of Vladimir Klitschko, a Canelo. While you're focused on the right hand, the guy can lean in and knock you out with a left hook from distance. Right? Floyd Mayweather. Look at the Diego Canales fight. Mayweather batters him with left hooks. Right? It's his lead hand. For Vladimir Klitschko, look at the Klitschko-Ray Austin fight. Right? Klitschko starts out with left jabs. Then he starts landing left hooks. Folks, the fight's over. Right? Ray Austin's getting battered with a left hook. Right? These guys don't have to be on top of you to land their plan B, heavy punch. Now, Pacquiao from distance, his best punch is a straight left. We know that. From distance, he doesn't have the plan B heavy punch. Right? So a guy like Jessie Vargas can get off the canvas hurt. And Jessie could look at him and say, man, this dude's way fast. Then Jessie, in the haze, can literally say, okay, well, let me just watch this straight left. Let me make sure I'm a little bit far away from him so he doesn't get up on me like Pacquiao did Ricky Hatton to hit me with the right hook up close. So you heard Brian Kenny yesterday during the telecast talk about how Manny was landing his left jab. His right jab. Right? Think about it. Manny's landing his right jab. Manny drops Jessie Vargas early in the fight. He has a decided hand speed advantage. He has a decided foot speed advantage. Why wasn't he able to take him out? It was a little bit stunning to me. Let's just say this Pacquiao is cautious, right? You could tell Pacquiao was working out some ring rust. He didn't want to get deep in the pocket like he was against Oscar De La Hoya, right? You could sense that. But from distance, if Pacquiao had the kind of leaping right hook, right? Hook with his non-dominant hand, if he had any long-range power from his non-dominant hand, he should have been able to close the show. Right? So Pacquiao, in terms of boxing history, spectacular legs, no question about it. Absolutely spectacular hand speed, no question about it. Great power. Right? He drops Jessie Vargas. Jessie Vargas is the one who looks swollen at the end of the fight. Right? Great power. Pacquiao weighed in at under 145 pounds. You saw suddenness, you saw power. But let's just say the assortment of punches aren't, we'll call it sugar level, right? Sugar and Floyd level. It's not Ray Robinson, Ray Leonard, or Floyd Mayweather level. Right? He, great fighter, don't get me wrong. Manny Pacquiao is one of the very best of his generation. But if you're going to analyze him, it's disturbing that in a few of these fights, the Shane Mosley fight, same thing, he could knock down a guy early, right? And then not be able to really follow up. Now, Mosley had blinding hand speed. And had power. Right? Mosley famously buzzed Floyd Mayweather. That's probably the most hurt I've ever seen Mayweather in a bout. Right? Mosley was dangerous, even when he got off the canvas. Right? I personally thought Mosley was going to win that fight. Well, let's just say here it's shocking. Because Jessie Vargas, who's talented, I'm not here to say Vargas isn't talented, but Jessie Vargas didn't have Mosley's hand speed. Right? Didn't have Mosley's power. Right? Let's remember, Shane Mosley wrecks Antonio Margarito. You want to see a Mosley power display? Look at that. Right? So, in a fight where Manny's in there and he knows he's too fast for the other guy, Vargas completely unprepared for his hand speed. You see that as early as the second round. Right? And of course, the best part of Manny's game is his foot speed. It looked like Vargas was fighting him from a sandbox, right? Vargas couldn't move his legs. Manny's all over the ring. You're telling me in that fight, where Pacquiao, who's not getting hit hard, right? You don't see Pacquiao's head snapping back. You know, it's not the kind of fight where Vargas lands some punch and then you say, okay, I know Manny's thinking about that punch. That's why he's being cautious. No, this is a fight where Pacquiao has a decided advantage and puts the guy down early and still has the advantage, has an even bigger advantage when Vargas gets off the canvas, because now they both know. Whatever bravado either guy had entering the ring, we both know at this point, Manny can put you down. You mean to tell me in that fight, Pacquiao wasn't able to leverage that into stopping Vargas early? Pacquiao wasn't able to come in, fake like he's throwing another left hand, which dropped Vargas, and then throw a leaping right hook to end the fight? You know, it was a little bit surprising. I was a little bit surprised by that. But make no mistake, I'm not sure if this current generation is prepared for Manny Pacquiao's hand speed. Right? Terence Crawford is more complete than Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, from a techniques perspective. Right? Crawford, ambidextrous. Crawford has, certainly from a right hand stance, a great left hook up front. Right? Crawford, you know, just does things. More complete fighter. Crawford can lower his head, come in, take out your body. Right? Crawford can stay in the pocket. But I don't think Crawford is the athlete. Hell, I'm not sure if anybody's the athlete. Manny Pacquiao is in the ring. Right? Pacquiao is much faster than Terence Crawford in hand speed and in foot speed. I'm not saying Crawford's a slouch, right? I don't believe Jessie Vargas is a slouch in either category. But this is what greatness does against fighters, right? Pacquiao is so blindingly quick with his hands. He's still relentless, right? He's moving for the whole fight. In other words, Pacquiao's a guy who's a better athlete than you, and he's making an issue of it every minute of the fight, right? This isn't Canelo where you're in the ring, you say, oh, this guy hits harder than me. This guy's stronger than me, right? And then there's that minute in the round where you're like, you know, this guy's huffing and puffing. Now's my opportunity. You cannot wait Manny Pacquiao out. He's a great athlete the entire fight. And understand, that matters, because a guy like Keith Thurman, a hunter, right, who knocks you out, I forget what he calls himself, one time or one punch or whatever, one touch, whatever, right? He's a hunter. He would be on his back foot against Manny Pacquiao. We already know that because he was on his back foot against Shawn Porter for portions of that fight, right? What would Danny Garcia do if Manny Pacquiao drops him early? Change styles? He's a mid-range hooker, folks. He's not going to learn a new style at this stage of his boxing career. Crawford would be an interesting match, because could Crawford's technique offset Pacquiao's physical dominance? We just saw a fighter try that last night, and he lost the fight, in my opinion, by a wide margin. I know one judge had it close. Trust me, if anybody wanted to be able to claim that Jessie Vargas was robbed of an earned decision, it would be me who had Vargas, simply to win in the fight. But no, Vargas was dominated. Vargas found himself on his back foot by necessity, not design. And when Manny Pacquiao gets you on your back foot, that takes you out of your game. So to sum up, Pacquiao is still physically dominant. His legs are still a cut above everyone else's in the division. Just fantasizing about a dream fight. Errol Spence likes to hit guys in the body, right? Wicked body puncher. Wicked body puncher. Let's ask yourself the question, what's the fight you saw where Manny Pacquiao, who's shorter, was able to get hit in the body several times by a good body puncher? Folks, good luck finding that fight, right? Pacquiao is a disruptor at welterweight at 37 years old. Maybe HBO looked at him and said, gee, do fans still love Manny Pacquiao? Are we going to promote this fight when we have the Andre Ward-Kovalev fight in 2 weeks? Right? Don't confuse the politics of boxing with the actual competition itself. As I've said, Pacquiao is this close to getting 3 of the welterweight titles. And let's face it, if Kell Brook can't work it out with Errol Spence, and Spence, as I said before, is a fool if he accepts step-aside money, right? If Kell Brook can't work it out with Errol Spence and he arrives at this division with all of these names, Pacquiao, Garcia, Thurman, Spence, if Kell Brook arrives and he is looking like Roy Jones looked after Roy Jones won the heavyweight title and he dropped back down to light heavyweight, right? You remember Jones looking sluggish. You remember Jones getting beaten up by Antonio Tarver, then beaten up by Glenn Johnson, right? If Kell Brook is really a guy who walks around at middleweight and higher, and if he's now thinking that he's going to drop back down to this deep water welterweight division, he's kidding himself. If Kell Brook's next fight is against Manny Pacquiao, I'll be rolling with Manny Pacquiao. Not that prime Kell Brook wouldn't give Pacquiao problems. It's just that weight divisions matter. And Kell Brook, who I know many of you feel looked great against Golovkin for a few rounds at middle, wouldn't be the same fighter if he has to drain himself down to 147 today, right? He's not 21 years old, he's older. So Manny looks like he's going to be a force for a while at middleweight. He could be in the Filipino government, can take time off and fight big fights. Let's face it too, as long as he is fighting for a title, it doesn't have to be his title he fights for. He could get stripped of his title. As long as he's fighting somebody else who has a title, he'll be in the title mix, right? You also have uncrowned champions in boxing. When you have a guy the stature of Manny Pacquiao, who has a share of the welterweight title right now, if the title body strips him and you're the guy they give the title to, right? Isn't the public gonna demand that you fight Manny Pacquiao? Isn't Pacquiao a credible opponent at 147? So, let's just say I was very impressed with Manny Pacquiao yesterday. Disappointed he didn't get the knockout, right? But that would have required, let's say, some skills that even prime Pacquiao didn't have, right? Manny's back, he's a real threat, he's legit. I'd take him over the winner of Garcia Thurman. At welter, the only guy I think who would really test him at this stage, given that Kell Brook moved out of the division and would just be coming back, The only guy who'd really test him at welter, in my opinion, right now, would be Shawn Porter. Why? Because Porter is sudden like Pacquiao, has great legs like Pacquiao, would be able to walk around the ring with Pacquiao. That'd be an explosive fight. Everyone else, ooh, good luck. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. I haven't fantasized about a Floyd-Pacquiao rematch because despite Mayweather's recent comments, I view Mayweather as very much retired. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave those comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.